Men and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Austin, and it is once again my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. Yes, in 2019, we are back again for the fourth year in a row on this train that we are on called the BMWC. And just in case you did not know, the purpose of the BMWC is to not only unify our people, but also to share industry information and encourage working professionals, speakers, authors, and everyone alike to come out and share their information about their background to help our future make good career choices. I want you to please visit and listen to all of the podcast interviews we're going to have posted on the site this year. There is tons and tons of information, so please make sure you take advantage of this unique opportunity. And when you have time, please make sure you go and visit 2017, 2018, and 2016 to make sure that you are also getting that information from all of the other participants on this platform. Before we get started with our amazing speaker today, we're going to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors, which are My Family Home, Evangelism Radio, JNF Enterprises, Sears Consulting, Autism Families Rock, Wakening to Love, Eli Natoli, Kimberly McLemore, True Synergy, and Platinum Financial Services. We want to thank them for all the support and everyone who is participating to make this season a huge success. So today we have on the podcast somebody who was one of my key speakers for the Veterans Biz Up Conference in August of 2018, Athena Thomas, CEO of the Life Calling Coach, and she is going to be here today to talk about her organization and some of the great things that she is doing for not only her organization, but for other organizations and individuals. And I'm going to read a little bit of her bio, and then we're going to get into her interview. Athena Thomas is the certified life coach and founder of the Life Calling Coach and Yes You Can Today Christian Life Coaching. She has a specialty in using vision boards to establish a path of life calling and spiritual growth. She is also the Endurance Program Director for Women Offering Wealth, a nonprofit organization, and she is also the founder and facilitator of the Sister Circle Support Group for Women, which is a program for survivors of domestic violence, and the Circle of Endurance Support Group. Athena uses her voice and talents and coaching programs to help others nurture their roots, reestablish focus, and establish balance in their life so they can grow into their life's purpose. So I want you to continue reading her bio and really get to know Athena and reach out to her if you need help from her. And so right now I'm going to welcome Athena to the podcast. Athena, welcome.
Hi, Ann. How are you?
I'm
Thanks
doing
for having me.
fantastic. Absolutely. So, yes, thank you so much for being in the Veterans Biz Up Conference and also being part of the movement of the BMWC for 2019. And so I want to start off by just asking you to tell everybody where you're from and give us a little bit about your background before you became a life coach.
Okay. I was born in Washington, D.C., so I have been in this area all my life. I was raised mainly in PG County, Maryland. And my background, I have various different career paths it led me to where I am today. When I originally started out, I started out in accounting, and I stayed in that for maybe about 10 years. And then I went on to litigation support. I stayed in that for about 10 years. And then I became an entrepreneur. I worked on my own as a freelance writer, editor, web designer, and I loved that work. And that was the first time I started to really experience fulfillment in my work. During that process is when I was introduced to your life calling and discovering your calling. And that's what led me to the path of the life calling coach and becoming a life coach. Because in those other career paths, I was not fulfilled in my work. So I always felt like there was more. So I went on a journey to find more. And this is where it landed me right here at the life calling coach.
Awesome, fantastic. And so, wow, you do have a variety of background. So, when you were coming out of school, you just kind of landed in accounting and you just stayed in that career for 10 years. What was it about accounting that led you to go in that direction?
I have always had a love for numbers. I loved math when I was in high school, so I just naturally gravitated to accounting. And I also did tax and all of that, but I didn't really have so much of a love or passion for it. It was just something that I liked to do. So I tended to get bored with it, and that's what made me go down other paths and look for other things.
Okay. And then somehow or another you fell into litigation support, and then all of a sudden you're doing other stuff like web design and you're writing and editing and you're just evolving over time. How did you end up landing in those positions?
Well, the litigation support came about through that was just at a point where I needed a steady career path. And I came in that entry level, worked up to a project manager. And I loved it. It was good work, it was good, steady work. But again, not something that was fulfilling to me that I was passionate about. But while I was working there, I discovered HTML. I took a class. I'm always in the process of trying to grow myself. And so I'm always learning. I keep myself in that process. And when I took that class, I just fell in love because I was just so in awe of the fact that you could take these words and make a picture out of them. So that led me into the freelance work. And in the freelance work, I discovered fulfillment because I was working for myself. I was being creative. And that's when I discovered where part of my passion really is in being creative. That's part of my passion. So being an entrepreneur is being creative to me as well. So that is part of my passion. And that's what started that road that led to the life calling coach and helping other people discover their passion.
Wow, you know what? What's interesting is that a lot of people don't realize this just by learning, because you said something really critical there, which I'm always pointing out, is that you always have to evolve and learn about new things. Because if it wasn't for you getting in accounting and learning about other avenues, you wouldn't have probably led to litigation support. And then if you hadn't went there, you wouldn't have been introduced to HTML. It's the same thing for me. If I hadn't worked for different organizations, I wouldn't have been introduced to so much technology and then introduced to being in the technology field. And that's really how a lot of people are able to kind of grow in their careers. And so, I just want people to hear that you definitely have to reinvent yourself and learn about different things that's around in your space, because I know people, they only want to know like this one thing or this one application, and everything around them they don't want to know anything about, right? So, I mean, how do you feel about that?
I feel like you should always be open to new opportunities because you never know where your gifting will explode in, especially when you don't know your calling or your purpose. That's where you should be in discovery mode. You should be looking at little things and, oh, well, the number one question I ask my clients, what is the thing that you would do all day long and not be paid for it? That's the thing that is probably your calling because that's the thing that you're naturally passionate about. And once I discovered what that was for me, then I just took off from that point.
Just took off. Okay. So, why do you think that some people are not really recognizing their natural calling? Because we hear about that all the time, that, we need to find what your purpose, your assignment, or all the terminologies that we have out there. But why do you think primarily people are not seeing what their true calling is, and they're just kind of living day to day, just doing the regular humdrum?
Well, I believe it's just because when we are raised and we go to school, we're taught to go and get a good job, get a career that's going to give you a good pension, and you can retire well, and that's what we're taught to do. But sometimes, and that's not. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it doesn't always equate to doing something that you love to do. Now, if you can do both, that's awesome. And that is the ultimate goal. So sometimes, and I can speak for myself, I did not choose my career path originally based on what I was passionate about. Because back in those days, I was still passionate about creativity. I was writing, but I didn't choose a path in writing when I went to college. So I was looking for a career that was going to be, like I said, it's going to give you a good, steady income, and you can retire well. So it's about what we really gear ourselves up to look for. I would love to catch people when they're younger, and because your gifts really start to come out when you're younger, when you're in high school, and those things that you do on the side. Some people draw, some people write. Those little things, those are your natural gifts and talents. But most of the time, when we get out and we're ready to go to college, that's not what we go to school for.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is it's just the same type of information that's shared in schools about what kids can and can't do when they come out of school. But you know what? In the last few years, I know that I have been involved with organizations that is changing that narrative, you know, really getting into schools and saying nowadays you can do whatever your talent is. And just like you said, if you wake up every day and that's all you can think about is drawing or singing, or maybe you can dance. Now it's okay to explore that. Where I would say 15 years ago, it was okay. We want to get you geared for this, and so I am happy that you are looking at it as an approach with your organization to help them figure out, you know, what is their calling. And also, you talked about young kids, but there's a lot of people who are in their 40s and 50s and now embracing this. You know, they're coming out and saying, you know what, I always have done this for 30, 40 years, and now I want to start a business. You know, are you getting people in your area that is also doing that?
Yes, Anne, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that is exactly what I'm doing right now as well. So, because I just recently retired, so I can definitely relate to other retirees who now you have the time to do what you wanted to do, and now you have the opportunity to explore some things. This is a perfect time for that. So I am getting interest from people in that bracket as well, and I encourage them to explore. I also introduce, and I did this at your workshop at the Veterans Biz Up. I introduced a growth mindset, and typically the way it's presented is it has been presented to younger children, but I have presented it to older adults because as we know, some people think that as I get older, oh, I can't do anything new. I'm too old to do that. But you're never too old to grow. You're never too old to learn. And so I love to instill that growth mindset even in our retired adults and let them know, no, you still can do this and you can discover your calling and you can do those things you've always wanted to do.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, and I do agree with you. I do wholeheartedly agree, and I'm glad that you were able to share that information with the veterans community. And I really highly encourage them to reach out to you for that information that you shared at the Veterans Biz Up Conference. I have too. Have had some older individuals come in and say, you know what, it's now time for me to spread out. It's never too late. And I really love that because now they recognize that that talent that they had for so long, it's not lost. And it's okay to say, I want a business at 40, 50, 60. I have one client who is 72. Okay.
Hmm.
And I even have another client who is still out there trying to help people in the community, and he's 81. And
Wow.
so I'm just ecstatic when I hear about people finally coming out of their shell and say, it's not too late for me to learn something new, for me to fix what I long to do. And I'm going to tell you why I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about it because at the age of 39, I
Hmm.
went back to school to get my 3 degrees. Okay. At the age of 39, I went back to school and went 7 years straight. It was a big
Wow.
sacrifice. in the end, what it helped me do was that it helped me elevate in my career, and then it led to me owning a business, you know. So we're going to be talking about that, and we're going to shift the gears now, because now we're talking about what actually led you to the life calling coach. You had all these wonderful backgrounds, and then you kind of woke up one day, right, and said, you know
Hmm.
what, the life calling coach. How did you know? How did you name the life calling coach? How did you come up with that name?
I came up with that name because of my first workshop was called the Life Calling Workshop. And as I was trying to narrow down my niche market, I really had to determine what my main focus was. What is my main purpose? And my purpose is to help other people discover their path to purpose. So I wanted my name to say that. And that's where I came up with the life calling coach, because I wanted
Oh,
that
okay.
to for them to understand this is what I do, and I wanted my name to say what I do.
Mhm. Okay, awesome. So tell everybody what your main mission, your overall mission for the life calling coach. As people are listening to you now, what is the mission of your organization?
My mission is to become that voice for those people who cannot speak for themselves, for those people who may not know what it is that they want to do or desire to do, and to help them discover that path. That's the mission of the life calling coach.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about some of the services and or any kind of activities that you offer through your organization or through any of the programs that you know that you provide.
Well, through the life calling coach, I offer coaching services. I offer individual coaching and group coaching. I also offer workshops, as I mentioned, the life calling coaching workshop. I am currently working on a holistic personal development coaching program called Go Gate to Beautiful. So I'm hosting gatherings for that as well. And I also am working on coaching materials. I'm working on my first book. My first coaching book is coming out this year.
Yes. All right.
Um,
Well, don't
and-
give it away. Don't give it away, because
okay.
then next season, when you come back here on the podcast, you can talk about your book.
Yes, yes, it's coming. So I'm
All
excited
right.
about that.
Me too. So what else you got?
Okay. And I also work with an organization called Women Offering Wealth, a nonprofit organization. I'm the endurance program director, and I facilitate a support group, Circle of Endurance Support Group. So that's another avenue for me as well. It's tied to the life calling coach, and I am available to facilitate workshops as well and support groups for other organizations. I also do vision board gatherings, because I believe that vision is key to living on purpose. You have to be able to know where you're going, and you have to be able to see it. And a lot of times we can get lost in our journey just because I don't know where I'm going. It gets cloudy. You know how life gets in the way sometimes. And we can get clouded as to what our path is. But when we create a vision board or a some visual representation of your path, you can always go back to it, and it'll get you back on track. So that's a major part of what I do as well.
That is awesome. I definitely encourage vision boards. I know a lot of people have been doing a lot of them, but I would say always go to one. Don't let the vision board die, okay?
Yes.
Because I think that vision board is fun, because you know you came to my house and we did a vision board
Yes.
just about chilling out, and it was so nice. We had so much fun just creating just some makeshift thing, a vision about how you can relax and things of that nature. So any kind of vision board that you can use for business or personal or in a group. And speaking of group, why don't you talk a little bit about the Circle of Endurance Support Group and some of the topics that you guys cover in that group?
Sure. So the group is open to anyone who wants to come. We encourage anyone who may have suffered with dysfunctional lifestyle, addictions, domestic abuse, anything that has hindered you in any way, you are welcome to attend. So we usually have a topic at every meeting that we'll discuss, but this year we're doing something different. This year I have decided to use conflict. All the meetings this year will be about conflict resolution and helping people to, first of all, identify conflict in their life, conflicted relationships, and then pick up techniques and tools to be able to use every day to address the conflict in their life. Of
Hmm.
course, because it's a support group, you get to also come in and be able to talk about your conflict. So that's
Nice.
it's a good way to release.
Okay, so what three pieces of advice could you give to someone who's listening right now that is having a hard time reaching out for this type of help? Because as you said earlier, that some people just don't know how to ask for help or they're afraid to ask for help. And so I think it would be great to hear from a professional on maybe three ways that they could come out of that shell and come to a support group or call someone for help if they need help.
Well, the first thing I would say would be to attend a support group, whether it's the Circle of Endurance support group or any other one, is to just go in and attend one. You don't have to speak the first time you go. You can just go in and just observe, see what it's about. That's a good way for you to get an understanding of how support groups run, and then will help to boost your courage to then ask for assistance while you're there. The other thing I would suggest is to do some research. Do research, like if you're in a challenging situation, and you may not know how to proceed. It may be something very personal. You don't want to tell your friends about it, but research what it is and then see what other resources may exist for you in that area. I also have, I've had people who have contacted me directly, uh, reach out to a coach. They may just reach out for a free coaching meeting, but in that meeting, that's an opportunity to say, hey, I need help. Okay, and it's confidential, and you don't have to worry about um, being embarrassed. You know, most meetings are over the phone. So there are, that's another way to do it as well. There are a lot of ways to do it where you don't feel like you are exposing yourself too much because some people feel that they don't want to expose themselves, but they need help. So those are three ways you can do it where you would be feel a little safer, but also be able to get the assistance you need.
Right. And I kind of want to add one other thing too is maybe someone who you trust and know could go to a
Mhm.
support group with them,
Mhm.
to give them some other kind of comfort so that they're not just going by themselves, in addition to the other three things that you said, because I think that all three of what you said was very valid. But I think most of all, even if you don't, and I would take a step back and say, even if you don't have someone who's supportive, if you have a job at the time, reach out to your local EAP. I used to work for an
Yes.
EAP organization and talk to them and maybe see if they have a social worker that could come with you to a support group, or maybe they can recommend one that is highly confidential because that's what the EAP's job is to make sure that your mind space is right for the job and that you're good personally and professionally. So if you happen to have a job, reach out to your local EAP, or
Yes.
maybe see if you can, if you have some support, maybe see if that person can come with you to a support group so that you don't feel like you're doing this alone and by yourself. And so I kind of wanted to add those two things. So I want to ask you one more question too, is are you having any events that are going on right now in the DMV area here in Maryland that you would like people to know about? This is a great time to talk about what's coming up in April and May and June and July. If you have any kind of conferences or events that you would like to plug here.
Yes, I actually do. As I mentioned, I'm working on the Gate to Beautiful coaching program. One of the key parts of that, I do a monthly Oil for Life gathering. And these are educational gatherings that I host where people can learn about different holistic practices that they can institute in their life. Right now, we're focusing on essential oils. So I have one coming up on March 2nd. I have one coming up on the first weekend in April, which I'm not sure what that date is, but it's the first Saturday of every month. I do advertise these on my website and on Facebook. So I do invite anyone to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me on at the Life Calling Coach. And I also invite you to come to my website, um, which is thelifecallingcoach.com.
Awesome, awesome. Okay. And so let me ask this final question. What does the life calling coach need to thrive and be fruitful in your business? What do you need?
I need people like Anne who provides platforms. I do. And one of my biggest
Oh my
challenges
God.
as a life coach
Yeah,
is
what is it?
getting people to understand what coaching is.
Yes,
And so
yes.
it's platforms like yours that give me the opportunity to talk about it and really dig into some of the details so people can understand what it's about. So that's
Absolutely.
one of
It's a
the biggest
pleasure.
things that I need. Yes.
Yes, yes, and you definitely need that platform. And I think for all businesses that because of technology, there's a lot of people doing things online. But you know what? We cannot forget the human elements. We
Yes.
can't forget the human interaction. And I think for all businesses, we need that human interaction to feel fulfilled and to reach our purpose. And I just want to add that to your tips. And so I want to thank you, Athena, for being on the podcast with me today and talking about the life calling coach and all of the different accolades that you have transformed into doing your life. Because when people hear these podcasts, I really want them to understand that you cannot feel like all the time that you're going to be stuck in this one position. You can change your
Yeah.
future. You can change how you want to live your life by just simply getting the education you need to move forward or to transition. And that's what the BMWOC is all about, not feeling stuck in one thing. And you definitely have shown that in your background. And I want to thank you for taking the time to share your story here today.
Thank you so much, Anne. And as I say all the time, I encourage you to live on purpose and not by accident.